begging for her life, begging for her hero, her father, me, that couldn't be there. She was 5'3". She weighed 115 pounds. Bang! Dead. Gone.
And say, at what point do we hold them accountable for their actions and stop playing this political circus game? And I will yield back the rest of my time.
Mary being in the ground, dead. And she was so decomposed by the time they got her out of that apartment that we never saw her again. We couldn't look at her.
So that every jail has to hold on to these illegal aliens until they can be picked up by ICE and deported.
One in particular, her name is America Ray Deal. She remains free on bond today, despite repeated violations of her curfew and ankle monitor conditions. She has faced little to no consequence. We know she has broken curfew, left her home, pushed the boundaries of the very system meant to contain her. She basically thumbs her nose at it, which you can see for yourself on the photos that she posted on social media. They've now been taken down, but we have copies. Nothing's been done. How can someone accused of such cruelty walk free while we, Mary's family, serve a life sentence of grief? The failures did not begin in the courtroom. They began when Mary was killed. For days, family, friends, and the community pleaded for help. Pleaded. I was pleading as Mary's, I don't know the right word. Mary had a disability, an invisible disability. If you're familiar with invisible disabilities, that means that you can't really, look at her and tell. Caregiver would be the right word. The police department and the detective would not comprehend what I was saying about Mary and how these people had her and they were hurting her, and I needed to get to her. It was long and it was torturous to even get him to go through that apartment door where she lay wrapped in plastic and concealed inside a mattress. It was 8 days since Mary left home. When they brought Mary out, it was finally the night of April 4th. She left the house on March 28th. The next day was Mary's mother's birthday, April 5th. That delay cost precious time, and it compounded the horror of what we later learned had happened inside. I cannot speak everything that happened to Mary, because if I try to speak what happened to Mary, I will no longer be able to sit or stand. So you're going to have to use your imagination on that part. Justice delayed is justice denied, and time is stealing our justice with the backlog court system for murder trials, and Mary is not the only victim. We're here because Irania Zaruska was also brutally stabbed and killed in Charlotte. She now brings us here today. The same system that failed Mary failed Irania. Our hearts are broken for her family and her friends, and we grieve with them. We carry the heavy knowledge of the continued agony that they now face. This is not just about two young women, it's about the justice system in Mecklenburg County, North Carolina, that is failing the very people it's sworn to protect. We need accountability. We need reform.
Next, Mr. Federico.
First, I want to make sure you all knew my daughter was. My daughter was Logan Federico. Okay?
Sir.
Yes. Logan Federico. She was 22, visiting friends at the University of South Carolina. How many of y'all have kids? I'm just curious. Here's what I need you to do. When I tell you this story, think about your kids. Think about your child coming home from a night out with their friends, laying down, going to sleep, feeling somebody come in the room and wake them, and drag her out of bed, naked, forced on her knees with her hands over her head, begging for her life, begging for her hero, her father, me, that couldn't be there. She was 5'3". She weighed 115 pounds. Bang! Dead. Gone. Why? Because Alexander Devontae Dickey, who was arrested 39 goddamn times, 25 felonies, was on the street. How about that? How good are we doing for our family? How good are you doing for your kids? He should have been in jail for over 140 years for all the crimes he committed. You know how much time he spent in prison? A little over 600 days in 10 years. He's only 30 years old. He was committing 2.65 crimes a year since he was 15 years old, but nobody could figure out that he couldn't be rehabilitated. Well, you'd have to put him in prison to see if he could be rehabilitated. Isn't that the idea of prison? But no, my daughter wanted to be a teacher. She finally figured it out 2 weeks before she was executed. And I haven't heard a damn word from Byron Gibson in South Carolina. Not one word. 4 months, no communication. His biggest concern was that he was pissed off about my interview and how I made him look on the Fox News channel with Trey Gowdy. How pathetic is that? That we're letting our 22-year-old kid visiting friends. It's all she ever wanted to do was visit friends. And she literally was executed while on her knees begging for her life. Her name's Logan Federico, not Irina. And you will not forget her. I promise you. You will be sick and tired of my face and my voice until this gets fixed. I will fight until my last breath for my daughter. You need to fight for the rest of our children, the rest of the innocents, and stop protecting the people that keep taking them from us. Please. You have the power. We put you in the power to do what you have to do. We're asking you, we're begging you all to stop this. 39 crimes in 10 years, 25 felonies. Can anybody here explain to me, well, how possibly he could be on the street? Possibly be on the street. How is it possible? I could sit down in a room and I could explain the whole process of how it failed, how South Carolina failed, Logan, okay? How lack of communication. What y'all did, you woke up a beast and you pissed off the wrong daddy. Because I'm going to put it out there. And I'm not going to be quiet until somebody helps. Logan deserves to be heard. Everyone on this panel deserves to be heard. And we will. Trust me. My daughter laid on the floor for 7 hours before somebody in that house recognized that something was wrong. And that career criminal, an hour later, went on a spending spree with her debit card. When they saw his face on a video, they didn't have to do a check. He was arrested so many times, they knew who he was. They knew exactly where to go get him. Pathetic. Absolutely pathetic that I'm here today.
Thank you. Officer Campbell.
Good morning. First, I want to say for the record that I'm not here to represent the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department. I'm here to represent myself, and so you can get a clear view of what a violent criminal does when he's back on the streets. April 29th of 2024, the Marshal Service was serving a warrant for a convicted felon for possession of a firearm again. While serving that warrant, 3 members of that task force and 1 member of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department were gunned down and murdered that day, along with 5 others, including myself, that were injured. Now, that day was chaos. Responding to that call, multiple officers, not only dead but injured, or taking gunfire from an elevated position by a known convicted felon. During the process of extracting the officers, I end up breaking my foot, which resulted in me being diagnosed with regional complex pain syndrome. It's a miserable diagnosis which led to the amputation of my right foot. I will no longer, ever, be where I was prior to that day. Now, in my hand, I will gladly submit this for your records, is his entire arrest report. And in this report starts in 2009, where he burglarized a residence with a stolen firearm. After he was taken to jail, he was released, where he committed multiple other offenses prior to him going to prison. He was released from prison and again continuously committed violent crimes with firearms. Now I ask you, why is it that we take people who commit these heinous crimes and we do not hold them accountable for their actions? We sit there and we try to give it a reason as a mental health issue or some other type of issues that realistically doesn't take blame. Now, the judicial system here in Mecklenburg County, I can speak firsthand, is trash. And I'll say it again over and over again. And I'll take the repercussions, what comes next after me saying that. But the magistrate system here has no idea what they are doing. This cashless bail system is a joke. I believe in my heart that if you commit a crime against another person violently, that you should not have a bond. You should sit in jail until your time comes. Now, there's a lot more that I could say angrily, but I'm trying to swallow my emotions because I've seen multiple committees such as this one, and words are exchanged, but action never comes to it. So I'm going to ask you guys, all of you, to at some point look at us and look at the future victims, because there will be more. And say, at what point do we hold them accountable for their actions and stop playing this political circus game? And I will yield back the rest of my time.
We're going to start with you.
All right.
Okay?
That's great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate you holding this hearing. I want to thank our witnesses for being here. This is very difficult, and you are helping us to craft policies that will hopefully help victims, because ultimately that's what we have to keep in the forefront of our minds, are the victims. We can get lost in the numbers a lot of times, but what we have to do is remember that each crime has a victim, and each victim has to be remembered, and have us to stand up for them. To the city of Charlotte, you have a problem. You have a problem here. You have a criminal justice system that is broken. And I'm not just picking on Charlotte, because we've been in Philadelphia in a field hearing. We've been in New York City. Any other large city across this country is going to have a similar problem. I'm from the Commonwealth of Virginia, just to the north. And you could go to Richmond. You could go to Norfolk. You could go to Fairfax. You're going to see similar problems. And they all have a broken justice system. You have to have three parts of your system working together in order for there to be accountability. You have to have law enforcement who do fantastic jobs arresting and charging. You have to have prosecutors who do amazing jobs. I was a line prosecutor at the county level right out of law school, who by and large do amazing jobs trying to prosecute these cases. And you have to have judges who are willing to convict and sentence these criminals. And without all three working together aggressively, you are going to have a broken criminal justice system. So serving as a local prosecutor, like many on this committee right now, we've gone in for bonds hearings in the morning and had these criminals come in. You look at three factors. You look at their criminal history. You look at whether they're going to be a danger to the community if they are given a bond. And you look at whether they're going to abscond and flee. If any of those are a possibility, you argue against bond. And if a judge thinks that any of those are a likelihood, you deny bond and you hold them. We also had 287G agreements where if this offender was an illegal immigrant, they were held until their case was finished and then ICE could pick them up. We need, as federal officials, to put in place mandatory 287G agreements so that every jail has to hold on to these illegal aliens until they can be picked up by ICE and deported.